Hi, scholars. The voice you are listening to right now is Miss Gonzalez, and I am so excited because today I get to teach you another math lesson. So let's go ahead and look at our objective for today. It says, today I can use doubles to find even numbers and then write number sentences about the math facts I learned. And one of our vocabulary words for today is going to be the word doubles. Go ahead and get ready to say that word with me, doubles. We're going to be learning throughout the lesson what a double is and how it can help us when we are finding even numbers that can be divided into equal groups. So before we get started, there's some materials that you are going to need. So I'm going to give you a second if you need to stop this video and get those materials. Please make sure that you have a white board and a marker so that you are working alongside Miss Gonzalez. If you do not have a whiteboard and a marker, that is okay. You can also get a notebook and a pencil. So if you want, go ahead and stop this video so you can go ahead and get those materials ready. Okay, I hope that everyone has their materials ready because we are about to start with our lesson. And the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to start with our application problem. Miss G is going to be reading the problem and we're going to be thinking about this problem together to see exactly what they're asking us to do. So let's go ahead and get ready to read the problem. So it says 7 students sit on one side of a lunch table. I'm going to stop, scholars, and I'm going to go ahead and underline that because that seems like very important information. So it says 7 students sit on one side of a lunch table. Then I'm going to continue reading to see what else is important in my problem. Then it says 7 more students sit across from them on the other side of the table. Let me think. If I had 7 students and they were sitting on the side of a lunch table and then 7 more students sit across from them, that means that the number of students had to increase, right? It had to get bigger because no students left the table. Actually, 7 more students came. So I'm also going to go ahead and underline that because that is also important information. Now, they're asking me to draw an array. And if you remember, last week we learned all about arrays. And I know that an array is a model that has an equal amount of rows. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down. It also has an equal amount of columns. So I know that I need to look at how many students were there in all, and I need to make an array. That means I need to make a model that has the same amount of rows and the same amount of columns. So I'm going to go back to the information in my problem, and I'm going to go ahead and work with that to make my array. So the first thing that I know in my problem is that 7 students sat on one side of a lunch table. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to represent that with circles. And if you have your notebook with you or your whiteboard, you could also be doing this with Miss Gonzalez. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to represent 7 students with circles. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the reason why I spaced them out is so that I don't get confused when I'm counting. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to double check to make sure that I have 7 students. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's the first group of students that sat on the side of the lunch table. Now, I know that 7 more students came. So if I'm making an array, I need to have the same number of rows and the same number of columns. So I'm going to go ahead and add 7 at the bottom. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Look at my model and think for a second, does this represent an array? Do I have the same number of rows and the same number of columns? What do you think? If your answer was yes, then you are correct. This represents an array because, again, I have the same number of rows and I have the same number of columns. Now, how can I write an addition sentence or an equation to represent the total number of students? How can I write an equation to represent the number of students? Well, I know that there were 7 students at the lunch table first, and then I know 7 more joined them. So I can use this to write my equation. I can say 7 plus 7 equals 14. I can double that. And remember, I told you in our objective that today we were going to use doubles. Well, guess what? We just started using doubles. A double is a number that is added to itself. When you have an equation and the two addends are the same, meaning they're being added to each other, that is called a doubles fact, okay? So today we are going to be working a lot with double facts, a number that is added to itself. And you're going to see that whenever we work with doubles, the sum of a double is always going to be an even number because you can break that number up into 2 equal groups, right? So let's go ahead and get into today's lesson. Awesome job on your application problem. So what I want you to do first is I want you to put your elbows on the desk that you're working on, or if you're sitting at a table, and go ahead and put your hands up. And I want you to start by pointing your thumbs up. I want you to start by pointing your thumbs up. Now think for a second, what is an addition sentence or an equation that I can write to describe the number of fingers pointing up? If I have my 2 thumbs up, what would be an equation that I can write to represent that? Take a second to think about it, and if you got it, go ahead and write it on your whiteboard. Well, an equation that I can write to represent that, I can say 1, because I had 1 thumb up, plus itself, plus 1, 1 plus 1, that is equal to 2. And again, that is a double fact. That is a double fact, which means that the same addend is added to itself. And then 2 is an even number because I can break 2 into 2 equal parts. I can break 2 into 1 plus 1, and those are 2 equal parts. Now, go ahead and pop up your index finger. Go ahead and get your thumb out and pop up your index finger. What would be another equation that I can write to represent how many fingers I have up? So I have 2 here, my thumb and my index finger, and then I have 2 here. So I can say 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. So I can go ahead and write another doubles fact. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. And if you were thinking, 4 is also an even number because if I have 4, I can break 4 into 2 equal groups. I can break it into 2 and 2. So always remember, the sum of doubles or 2 equal addends is always going to be an even number. So if you want, go ahead and write that down on your notebook or on your whiteboard. The sum of 2 equal numbers is always an even number. And even numbers are numbers that can be broken up into equal groups. Just like we were talking about last week about equal groups, an even number is any number that can be broken up into 2 equal groups. Now, I want you to pop up the next finger on each hand. So we had our thumbs out. We had our index finger out. And now let's pop up the next finger. What is a doubles fact equation that I can write to represent how many fingers I'm holding up. Take a second to think about it. If you said 3 plus 3, then you are correct. I had 3 fingers on this hand, and then I had 3 fingers on this hand. So I can say 3 plus 3 is equal to 6. And again, 6 is going to be an even number because I can take 6 and I can break up 6 into 2 equal groups of 3. Now, go ahead and pop up the next finger. Go ahead and pop up the next finger. How many fingers am I holding on each side? So I have 4 on this side and then I have 4 on this side. What is an addition sentence that I can write? Go ahead and take a second to think about that. If you said 4 plus 4, then you are absolutely correct. So I can represent that by writing 4 plus 4 is equal to 8. And 8 is an even number because, again, I can break up 8 into 2 equal groups of 4. So 8 is an even number. Now, let's go ahead and hold up both hands out and hold up all of the fingers in our hands. How many fingers do I have on each side? I have 5 here and I have 5 on this hand. How can I write an addition equation to represent that? I can say 5 plus 5 and that is equal to 10. Absolutely. So I can say 5 plus 5, and that is equal to 10. And 10 is also an even number because I can break up 10 into 2 equal groups. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, which are all the sum of equal numbers of double facts, are all even numbers because I can break them up into 2 equal groups. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at those equations and think about what are the patterns that we see in the totals of a doubles fact. I want to make sure that we all get it. So 1 plus 1 equals 2, 2 plus 2 equals 4, 3 plus 3 equals 6, 4 plus 4 equals 8, 5 plus 5 equals 10. What are the patterns that you see in the totals of a doubles fact? Well, number one, we already know that all doubles fact, the sum of all doubles fact is an even number, but we also should be focusing on the fact that even numbers always end in 2, 4, 6, 8, and 0. So even when we're working with 2-digit numbers, you're always going to notice that even numbers end in these digits: 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So all of these totals are even numbers. And what we know about even numbers is that when we break them up, we have equal parts. We have 2 groups with the same parts inside. Now, we are going to go ahead and we're going to be using some counters to practice. This is where you're going to use your whiteboard or your notebook to practice with Miss G. So, we are going to describe this array by writing an equation. We're going to be counting to see how many are on top, and then we're going to be counting to see how many are at the bottom. And we're going to use an equation to represent the array and then to show what is the total amount of this array. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to count how many are on top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to go ahead and write that total here. Now I notice that what I see on the top is the same as the bottom. So instead of wasting time counting, I can automatically say, well, if there's 6 on top, then I know there's 6 on the bottom. Now, I'm going to write an equation to represent that. And I can write that as 6 plus 6 equals, that's a doubles fact. So 6 plus 6 equals 12. And 12 is an even number. So I'm going to put a small e there. Remember what we just learned. All even numbers always end in 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. And if we look at the ones in the number 12, I'm going to put a T here for tens and an O here for ones. If we look at the ones in the number 12, we notice that there are 2 ones. So I automatically know that that is an even number. And also I know that it's an even number because if I was to break 12 apart, I will see 2 equal parts. I would see 6 and 6, which tells me that that is an even number. I'm going to give you a second to write that down before we move on to the next problem. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next problem. Since we're going to keep doing this, we're going to keep practicing describing the array with an addition equation. Each time we see the array, we're going to count and we're going to see how many, and then we're going to use our double stack to figure out the total of the array. So let's go ahead and look at this first array. I'm going to count how many are on top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there are 7 on top. So if there's 7 on top, then I know there's the same amount on the bottom. So I can say 7 plus 7 is equal to 14. And again, 14 is an even number because if I look at the ones are 4, and I know that an even number always ends in 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. And if I was to break 14 apart, then I would see 2 equal parts, 2 groups of 7. Let's go ahead and look at the next one. Let's count the top row. Get ready. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 on top, which means there's going to be 8 on the bottom row. So I'm going to say 8 plus 8 equals 16. And 16 is an even number because if I look at my ones, the ones are at 6. And if I break 16 apart, I know that I can break it up into 2 equal groups of 8. Go ahead and take a second to write that down. Perfect. Now we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to look at an equation and we're going to be figuring out what the double facts are. So the equation reads 8 equals blank plus blank. So what I want you to do is take a second to write this equation down. So I'm going to give you a second to write the equation down. Now we know based on what we learned today that 2 doubles added together, the sum of that is going to give me an even number. So we know that 8 is an even number, but I want to break up 8 to see what the 2 equal groups are. Remember, I'm looking for 2 doubles, so that means whatever addend is here needs to be equal to the addend that is here. So I'm going to take 8 and I'm going to break it apart. I'm going to say 1 cookie for my friend Deanna and 1 cookie for me. That's 2. 1 cookie for my friend Deanna, 1 cookie for my friend Summer, and that is 4. Now I'm going to say 1 cookie for my friend Jane, 1 cookie for my friend Stella, that is 6. 1 cookie for my friend Michael and 1 cookie for my friend Thomas, and that is 8. Now I'm going to count to see what my equal groups are. So 1, 2, 3, 4 on one side and 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can say 4 plus 4 is equal to 8. I can double the 4 to get my sum, my total, because remember, doubles If I double whatever I have on one side, that's going to be, the sum of that is going to be an even number. So I know 8 is an even number. So I'm going to put a little E there because I can break 8 into 2 equal groups. Let's go ahead and do another one together. So we have another equation, and that equation reads blank plus blank is equal to 12. So we know that we're going to have to break 12 apart to see what the 2 equal groups are. Remember, whatever I have on this side needs to be the same on that side because we're working with doubles, and doubles have the same addends. So I'm going to start. I'm going to say 1 for my friend Justice, 1 for my friend Corey. I have 2. Remember, I'm trying to get to 12. 1 for my friend Dallas, 1 for my friend Legend. I have 4. 1 for my friend Sanaya, 1 for my friend Shiloh. I have 6. Have to keep going because I have to get to 12. 1 for my friend Victoria and 1 for my friend Summer. I have 8. 1 for my friend Miss Padilla and 1 for my friend Miss Armour. I have 10. 1 for Mr. Evans and 1 for Miss Toretta. I have 12. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to count how many on each side. Remember, there has to be the same amount for it to be a double stack. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 6 on one side, which means I have 6 on the other side. Go ahead and take a second to write that down. You should be practicing with Miss G. That means that we are doing this together. You should be doing this on your notebook or on your whiteboard. Let's go ahead and try another one. I'm going to give you a second to write that down, and then we're going to go ahead and get started with this one. So I have my equation reads 14 equals blank plus blank. So we know that we're going to break 14 apart to find 2 double facts. So I'm going to go ahead and put my 2 little lines so I can break 14 apart. I'm going to give you a second to do that as well on your notebook or on your whiteboard. So I'm going to start by saying I can give 1 cookie to Summer. I can give 1 cookie to Sanaya. I can give 1 cookie to Jael. I can give 1 cookie to Omari. And I'm going to write down how many I have so far. 2, 4. Let me keep going because I know I need to get to 14. Okay, I can go ahead and give 1 cookie to Sage. I can give 1 cookie to Justice, and that would be 6. Notice that I'm counting by 2s. I can give 1 cookie to Jandel, and I can give 1 cookie to Deanna. That is 8. I can give 1 cookie to Kimari, and I can give 1 cookie to Dallas. That is 10, but remember, I need to get to 14. So I can give 1 cookie to Stella, and I can give 1 cookie to Mariah. That is 12. Trying to get to 14. I can give 1 cookie to myself, and I can give 1 cookie to my mom. That is 14. So now I need to count to see how many on each side. And if you notice, it is the same on each side. Whatever this side got, this side also got. Because if I had 1 here but not 1 here, then that wouldn't be a double stack. That would not be equal to each other. So I'm going to count. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7 on one side and 7 on the other side. 7 plus 7 is equal to 14. I'm going to give you a second to get that down. Now that we did some practice, we're going to take a second to look at our problem set. And today you are going to be completing your problem set using Kami. And Kami is a website that you can use to draw in or write the answers to your work, and then you can turn it in on Google. So make sure that you watch the video that Miss G posted so you are familiarizing yourself with Kami, how to access your work, and also how to turn it in. So let's go ahead and look at today's work. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to be reading the directions. It's always very important that I read the directions and think about what they're asking me to do. And don't forget, today we learned about doubles and we also learned about even numbers. So it says draw to double the group you see. So I'm going to be looking at the group I see, and then I have to draw on this side. So on Kami, you guys are going to use the special tool that allows you to draw on the circle. So you guys are going to use that tool to draw and represent the other group that you see. So after that, you're going to complete a sentence and write an addition equation, just like we were practicing with our doubles. So let's go ahead and do the first one together. So I'm going to look here, and I see that there is one cloud here. So I'm going to draw on this side what I see. I'm going to double it. So I'm going to go ahead and do another cloud here. Now, I know that there's one cloud in each group because I have two groups and there's one cloud in each group. Now I'm going to write an addition sentence to represent that. I can say 1 plus 1 equals 2. And I know that 2 is an even number. So I'm going to write a little e here because I know I can break up 2 into 1 and 1. Let's go ahead and look at the second one. I'm going to look at how many clouds I have here, and then I'm going to double that on the other side. So I notice I have 2 clouds here, so I'm going to double that here. There's one cloud, and then there is another cloud. So in each group, there are 2 clouds. So I can say 2 plus 2 equals 4. And I know 4 is an even number because I can break up 4 into 2 equal groups of 2. Okay, so make sure that as you're going through your problem set, you are using the tool that allows you to draw in the circle. And then at the end, when you're completely done with your problem set, there's going to be a blue button on Kami that says turn in. You have to click on that button so that your work is submitted to your teacher. So when you're all the way done with your work and you've double checked, make sure you click where it says turn in because it's going to submit your work on Google Classroom. Now the last thing I want you all to pay attention to before we get ready to wrap up is your exit ticket. In your exit ticket, you're going to draw an array for each set to complete the sentence. So make sure you're reading and looking at what it is asking you to do. For this first one, it says 2 rows of 5. So I know I need to draw an array just like in our application problem that has 2 rows of 5. That means 5 on top, 5 on the bottom. And then I need to write an addition sentence to represent that. 2 rows of 5 is equal to, and then I need to write that addition sentence to represent that, okay? If you get stuck in your lesson today, or if you get stuck with your independent practice, just remember that wherever addend I have on one side when I'm working with doubles, I'm going to double it on the other side. So if I have 1 here, I double that, and that is 2. Remember that the sum is always going to be an even number. So just think about what we talked about today, or you can stop if you get stuck, and you can go back and rewind this video if you need more help. I hope that you enjoyed our math lesson together. I know I definitely had a lot of fun teaching you about doubles and even numbers. This week, we're going to grow our brains even more as we talk and learn more about even numbers and how to work with arrays and all sorts of things as we get our brains ready for third grade. So please give yourselves a pat on the back and send yourself some love. I'm sending you all some love from where I am at and some positive energy. I cannot wait to see your independent practice and your exit ticket. All right, scholars, have an amazing day, and I'll see you for our next math lesson tomorrow.